Let us start right off with the outcome. Let me read you the first topic sentence. To proceed. In those exposed to high amounts of light at night, the risk of depression increased by 30%, while those who were exposed to high amounts of light during the day, reduced risk of depression was by 20%. Now, this title of the study, Largest Ever Study on Light Exposure Proved Its Impact on Mental Health. This was a study of about 86,772 adults. And the outcome, as you can see here, was quite fascinating. Now, also too, which I will clarify a little further on, these were independent variables, meaning you could achieve benefit if you can at least accomplish either reduction of bright light at night or increase exposure to bright light during the day. The reason the researchers believe this is important because humans spend about 90% of their time indoors now. So this is kind of like an incredible, simple solution to a very complex societal issue. It's kind of like Occam's razor or the law of parsimony, except we're looking at solutions, even though there could be explanation at the same time, outside the definition of those two. But let us go into the study and read in more detail now. Largest ever study on light exposure proved its impact on mental health. I know I'm reiterating. In those exposed to high amounts of light at night, the risk of depression increased by 30%, while those who were exposed to high amounts of light during the day, the reduced the risk of depression by 20%. Similar patterns of results were seen for self-harm behavior, psychosis, bipolar disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and PTSD. These findings indicate that the simple practice of avoiding light at night and seeking brighter light during the day could be an effective non-pharmacological means of reducing serious mental health, I like to say challenges, they say issues. Quoting, our findings will have a potentially huge societal impact. And again, think simple solutions. Think about this. If this was a medication or a pharmacological agent per se, nutrient or supplement, this would be groundbreaking news. But since it's a very simple solution, it tends to fall into the table. Now, I want to bring your attention to this following chart. So if you look charts, I should say. Now, this is done on quartiles. So if you see like second, third, fourth. So the fourth, for example, would be the highest. Let's take major depressive disorder. So you look at the fourth, you see those lines right there. Look at those with the 25% highest exposure to light at night. Now keep in mind these are independent of each other. And if you look at the other side of that chart, it's the daylight exposure. Those are the ones that had the highest bright light exposure during the day. You see across this whole spectrum there? Pretty amazing, wouldn't you say? So, to proceed as follows. The world's largest study on light exposure and its impact on mental health with almost 87,000 participants has found that increased exposure to light at night increases a person's risk for psychiatric disorders such as anxiety, bipolar, and PTSD severity, as well as self-harm. Importantly, the study also found that increasing exposure to daytime light can act like a non-pharmacological means for reducing psychosis risk. The abstract gives a very good explanation, and it's fairly simple to follow. So let's you and I delve into the abstract. We performed the largest 2-day cross-sectional analysis of light, sleep, physical activity, and mental health. Quote, we examined the independent association of day and night light exposure with covariate adjusted risk for psychiatric disorders and self-harm. Greater night light exposure was associated with increased risk for major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, psychosis, bipolar disorder, and self-harm behavior. Independent of night light, greater daylight exposure was associated with reduced risk for major depressive, was associated with major depressive disorder, PTSD, lost my space there for a second, psychosis, and self-harm behavior. These findings were robust to adjustment for sociodemographics, photoperiod, physical activity, and sleep quality. Avoiding light at night and seeking light during the day may be a simple and effective non-pharmacological means of broadly improving mental health. Very simple. Again, that's where Occam's razor comes in reference to a solution. Or you could say it's been the suppression of light during the day and the exposure of too much light at night, which could be responsible for some of these challenges. Now we're going to go to the full study once again to conclude. Again, DOI citation is listed in all our videos, so you can research and work with your medical professional or a researcher on your own. To proceed, researcher. Work with a researcher or research it on your own. Taking together, quoting, our findings are consistent with bright daylight and low night light strengthening circadian rhythms as an antecedent, antecedent to more robust mental health. Patterns of bright daylight and low night light serve to enhance the amplitude and stability of the circadian clock, as well as line its activity appropriately with daily activities. As modern humans spend approximately 90% of their day indoors. See, that's lower parsimony in regard to potential causes of these challenges. Our light exposure patterns are typically less bright in the day and more bright at night than naturalistic patterns across our evolutionary history. Addressing this deviation from our natural light-dark cycles may improve the general mental health of people in industrialized societies. Again, it's like, oh my gosh, another confirmation of the benefits of light during the day and not so beneficial at night, per se. But this study, even though it goes through 86,722 people, close to approximately 87,000, you have to look at it. If that is possibly a cause or an antagonist to people feeling well, then just the changing things around and going to those naturalistic patterns, as the research indicate, can yield beautiful, beautiful outcomes simply and effectively for a multitude of people, or at least make the challenges not so challenging. Again, DOI citation will be there for you to follow. Gratitude to the researchers. This was actually a pretty huge study. I'm just surprised, obviously, you'll hear me say this often, that it didn't scratch the surface media-wise. But you and I, we share it, now we know. Gratitude to the researchers. I am always at all the channels and all the things you can do and watch. I am humbled you take the time to watch, and I value that very, very, very highly, and look forward to seeing what you and I share next week. Catch you all next time. Bye.